Hello everyone, I am going to do a presentation on Between the Acts by Virginia Woolf, and without further ado, let's get started. So the life of Virginia Woolf first, in case you're wondering who she is, but she's a very famous writer from England. She was born to a wealthy family in London and was educated by her mother domestically, who didn't believe in formal education for women. And sadly, that was the um, ideas going on around that time because um, more and more women were getting formally educated more and more around about 100 to 50 years ago, but still there were lots of other people that didn't believe in formal education for women. But nevertheless, Virginia Woolf attended King's College London and she married Leonard Woolf in 1912, and later the two founded the Hogarth Press in 1917, which published many of Woolf's works. So you can say that she and her husband worked together to see the Virginia Woolf's works see the light of day. And sadly, she suffered from depression and mental illness throughout her life. And um, very tragically, she committed suicide in 1941, throwing herself into a river. And she actually wrote a letter to her husband saying that she couldn't handle the pain in her mind anymore, and to relieve herself of her pain, she had to commit suicide, had to end her life. But that is a very sad story, but that is a true story. So even if you're a famous writer, I guess you couldn't avoid mental pain in a way. And what is truly a happy writer writing life, and who knows about that? I'm not sure, but I hope other writers don't commit suicide. Okay, next slide. So more about Between the Acts. It's the last novel of Virginia Woolf, published posthumously, meeting after her death, and shows the life of a rural village in the heart of England before the dawn of World War II, and shows the conflict between the quiet town and the stirrings of London. Um, and shows the discontent of one of the protagonists, Lisa, about her gender role as a wife and mother. And the novel has a play within a play, and actually there's an entire pageant, a play event going on in the town, and the entire village is participating. And one of the characters, called Miss Latrobe, is the director. And and this novel explores the dual roles of Isa as a wife and mother, and also her affections towards this farmer, this handsome farmer that I will say later in the video. But this work also explores professional women, such as Miss Latrobe, the director of the play, and it shows what women can do and if they extend their mind beyond gender roles. So let me read an excerpt of Isa. And here's a silver comb that shows the symbol of Isa's Isa's duality as a wife and mother, and her desires to go beyond that. So let me read the excerpt. Inside the glass in her eyes, she saw what she had felt overnight for the ravaged, the silent, the romantic, gentle farmer. In love was in her eyes, but outside, on the washstand, on the dressing table, among the silver boxes and toothbrushes, was the other love. Love for her husband, the stockbroker, the father of my children, she added, slipping into cliché conveniently provided by fiction. Inner love was in her eyes, outer love on the dressing table. But what feeling was it that stirred in her now when above the looking glass out of doors she saw coming across the line the perambulator, two nurses and her little boy George lagging behind. And then this is another excerpt that I thought interesting. Wordy, a bit whiffy, Mrs. Sands held on to her nose. The cat rubbed itself this way, that way against the table legs, against her legs. She would leave a slight for Sunny, whose drawing room named Song Yan had begun a chicken change into Sunny. She took them, the cat attended, to the larder and laid them on a plate in the semi-ecclesiastical apartment. For the house before the Reformation, like so many houses in that neighborhood, had a chapel, and the chapel had become a larder, changing, like the cat's name, as religion changed. So I'm not an expert on religion too much, but I thought this was an interesting expert as society changed, and the seasons changed, and the ages changed, so did religion, and people's attitude toward religion changed also, and I thought that was interesting. And this is the part about Esau's husband, Giles Oliver. So Giles had come. He had seen the gray silver-plated car at the door with initials R and N twisted so as to look at a distance like a coronet. Visitors, he had concluded as he drew up behind, and had gone to his room to change. The ghost of convention rose to the surface, and the blush for a tear rises to the surface at the pressure of emotion. so the car touched his training. Must change, and he came into the dining room looking like a cricketer in flannels wearing a blue coat with brass buttons, so he was enraged. Had he not read in the morning paper and the train that 16 men had been shot, others imprisoned, just over there across the Gulf and the flat land which divided them from the continent? Yet he changed. It was Aunt Lucy, waving her hand at him as he came in, who made him change. He hung his grievances on her, as one hangs a coat on a hook, instinctively. So this shows the duality of a man called Giles Oliver. He's a stockbroker, and he is very angry about the things going on in the continent as war was about to begin, but his hometown is so quiet. And the play proceeds with the story of the history of England, and the actress forgets her lines. The director, Miss Latrobe, is frustrated with the proceedings of the play. The gramophone here is an imagery in which evokes the nervous sentimentality of everyone in the novel, including the audience who has come to watch Latrobe's play, although they don't know what the play means. So this play shows the entire history of London, from the Anglo-Saxons to the Plantagenets, the Stuarts, and what the modern history of England and the Royal Revolution and all that stuff. And in the story, the gramophone doesn't work. Gramophone goes chuff 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 like something is stuck in the gramophone, and like a dust is stuck in the gramophone, and that evokes the nervous sentimentality of the rural village before the brink of war. And as one of the audience, he continued, words now put on meaning. I will offer very humbly, for I am not a critic, and he touched the white gate that encloses the yellow forefinger. My interpretation, no, that is too bold a word. The gifted lady, he looked around. Latrobe was invisible, he continued. Speaking merely as one of the audience, I confess I was puzzled. For that, what reason, I asked, were we showing these scenes? Really, it is true. The means at our disposal this afternoon were limited. Still, we were shown at different groups. After the play, the Reverend Streatfield confesses along with the villagers that he did not get the content of the play, but that everything is part of a whole. So this is just small discussion questions that I have for my initial modernism, skills of reading modernism class, and to just go over them for food for thought. Number one, do you think the play performed in the novel is a literary device to serve as a counterpoint of the situation between Lisa and her husband and the dissatisfaction they have with each other? Do you think it's effective? Number two, there are allusions and traditions that the character William Dodge is gay. What do you think is Woolf's intention to put William in the story? Does he serve as Woolf's form of resistance to gender roles in the early 20th century? And Woolf's last novel employs her technique of stream of consciousness. Why do you think Woolf chose to use the technique to describe the lives of rural villagers? And just a thought, or couldn't have Woolf used traditional literary narrative techniques? And number four, what do you think the play and the novel signifies? Does the play serve as a device to show the uncanny psyche of the villagers and the characters in England at the brink of war? So, these are just for you to think about. And if you have anything to talk about, feel free to think of in your own journal. And thank you for watching this video. And here, thank you. Here the works cited. Thank you.